Hey everybody, and welcome to another video. Today we are going into a different climb here. Already had a bit of a battle that I uploaded with Hector the other day, but we had another fight a few weeks later that I still want to show here. So this is a different route. We're actually driving to the southwest of Valencia in this ride, and we're currently having a lead out that goes straight to the climb that you can see at the top right. So most of this ride has actually been flat. In total we rode 160 kilometers on the day. And at this point we're roughly 70 kilometers into the ride already. And Jose, Hector and me, we actually pulled most of the group towards the climb. And at this point I think we are roughly 5 people, 5 to 6, who go for the climb itself. The rest already headed towards the restaurant to just grab some food, and we would meet up with them later before we headed back to Valencia. So once that we're heading into the climb, I'm jumping to the front here, but this is really just the start. Not really too much is happening there. This is where most of the action is happening. And Hector does what he usually does. I talked about this a little bit in the previous video. He's really strong usually on the climbs. He's also a lot lighter than I am, and especially at the beginning of a climb, he just jumps ahead. That's just his MO. He knows that right at the start he's coming out super fast. And one of his weaknesses is that towards the end of the climb he sometimes is running out of fuel, and that's why I usually have a bit more of a chance of catching him. But in this case I'm actually trying to keep up with him. So I already expected him to jump ahead of me, and I didn't know the climb. I rode the climb from a different direction, so I didn't quite know how long all of this would last. But right now I'm already trying to make sure that I can keep up with him for as long as possible here. So the two of us is just pretty much riding abreast here and yeah, trading a few short pulls. It's pretty hot. I mean, it is Spain after all, and the scenery is as usual. I mean, again, since I moved to Spain, riding here has been an absolute blast, has been fantastic. I'll also, by the way, link the Strava route into the description of the video so that everybody who wants to check it out can have a closer look there. But right now I'm already at 180 BPM on the heart rate, and I'm pretty much just settling in the climb, and I'm thinking, okay, if I can kind of keep up with Hector towards the end, I'll probably be able to out-sprint him towards the finish. And that was kind of my goal. And I was also the entire time just looking to see if there's maybe a chance where I can get a bit of a gap between the two of us. But most of the time I just heard him right behind me. So unfortunately don't have a camera in the back, but the entire time when we're riding here I actually hear him behind me. So I hear him just right behind me shifting or just going into the gears. It turned out that at this point already though, we lost most of the others that were trying to keep up with us. So there was another group of 3 to 4 just behind us that were trying to catch us. But the climb itself is actually quite steady, and it's a really nice climb too. It can be a pretty tough one though, but it's quite steady when it comes to the grade, as you can see here. So we're usually moving between 5 and 6%, which isn't really too bad. There's no huge ramps going on there. There's one towards the end. You can see that little dip at the top right elevation profile, and after the dip it's a little bit tougher. But right now I'm just like trying to keep up something around 350 watts and see if there's maybe a chance for me to at some point just get a little bit ahead. Usually the terms in the profile where I am a little bit better than him is when, let's say, the gradient dips down to 3 to 4%, and then I can usually try and get a few more watts onto the pedals, and will normally get a bit of a speed advantage that helps me to get a small gap going or catch him if he's too far ahead. The signs that you just saw at the right side are on most of the climbs here pretty regularly, and it just indicates what the gradient is on the next kilometer that's coming up, and also how much time or how much distance is left to the top of the climb. So Hector actually jumps ahead here, and he actually has a strategy sometimes where he will on a climb just jump ahead of you and will just start to pull for a little bit and see if he can gap someone. So in this case he goes a little bit faster at the start. I immediately jump after him, say like, okay, good, I'm gonna try and just keep up here. And you can already see at my heart rate that things are starting to become a little bit tough. I mean, these days when I'm in the climb, I think the maximum that I had in the climb itself was 195. Lately I've actually focused a bit more on sprinting, and it turns out that when I go into a big sprint I usually have a heart rate of 200 that I top out on. At one point I reached 201, so it gets a little bit crazy here. But on the climbs itself, when I'm above 180, 185, things are starting to hurt, and especially once I cross over 190, things are really painful. So Hector keeps going a little bit faster, and I'm just trying to keep up here. So power dips over 400 a couple of times here. We're just trying to get a decent pace. And every single time when he slows down, I'm just trying to take over. So I'm always like looking to see if he has maybe a bit of a weakness there. And that's probably the biggest thing about cycling cycling in general that I figured out after I've been riding for a while now, that a lot of it is actually just mental strength. How long can you suffer through the pain, and do you brake, or does the guy that you're cycling against brake first? Because quite often it seems like Hector and I, for example, were pretty evenly matched in a lot of the climbs, depending on the day and the shape lane. But it's quite just a question of who breaks first, who thinks the other one still has enough in his tank to really just like go for last sprint or put a little bit more effort in, and who gives up here. So right now I'm taking the lead again, and I'm already thinking I have to try and gap him at some point. And again, I don't know exactly this side of the climb, so I'm not quite sure what the terrain is. I don't know if there's a gap or anything. But you might remember that in the last video there are a couple of rolly parts where I tried to gap him. And we actually come up to something really similar. So we're actually starting to get into an area where all of a sudden it seems like it's going to level out a little bit more. And I'm already thinking, okay, if there's a chance, then I have to try and see if we can maybe just get a small gap between the two of us, so that on any kind of downward section he won't be able to sit in my slipstream, and that I can maybe just like break him and see if I can get ahead here. But for now, we're actually just going around that little bend, and again, scenery is just amazing. In Valencia, when it rains, it pours, it's really insane. It usually then rains for like 2 or 3 days, but normally you have just fantastic weather and beautiful skies, beautiful scenery there too. As already promised in one of the recent videos, I will soon start uploading footage where I have also a bit of a different angle on the camera, so that you guys can see a little bit more. Unfortunately, you can't see over the railing here towards the side. But yeah, right here I'm already starting to really suffer a little bit more. But I can already tell with the gradient coming up, the sign on the right, as you might have noticed it, that there has to be a flatter section, just because the average gradient on next kilometer isn't really all that much. And right here I'm already saying, okay, this seems like an area where I might be able to set myself ahead just a little bit of him. So that was kind of the goal here, because I was in pain, I was really hurting. We already pulled the entire field for 70 kilometers, so it was pretty much Hector, me and Jose just trading pulls the entire day, so we weren't really quite fresh as we entered the climb. But at this point I'm already going up to 188 BPM, and I was just like, okay, I have to find a way to somehow get a bit of a gap and try and leave him behind and just break him mentally. So that was the goal as we're hitting this little gap, and I'm immediately saying, okay, this might be a chance for me, so let's just go for it. Yeah, right now I'm still not quite sure if I want to do it or not, and I'm going around the corner. I can see, okay, this is actually looking a little bit better for me. And as we're coming through that corner, I think is when I start or try to make a bit of a move here, or shortly after, at least that is. And the entire time it's just like Hector breathing down my neck as he usually does. And honestly, even before that, I was just waiting for him at some point to just simply jump in front of me and again try one of his pulls. And I was just thinking, oh god, I just have to hold on somehow when it comes to that, or I'm just going to fall off. And I was already doubting if I could hold on if he goes for a big effort here. So in my head it was just like, well, if I don't take the initiative, then as soon as he does, I'm going to be screwed. So I have to make sure that I at some point find some kind of area where I feel I can really play to my own strengths. And I didn't even look back at this point. I was really just like focused on myself. I was like, the second you look back, you're going to fall. And now that we're actually heading downwards, I'm like, okay, there might be a chance that I can make something happen here right now. So I see the corner already over to the side, and I'm like, okay, once I'm through there, I need to start and put a little bit of power onto the pedals and see what I can go with this. So you can see it on my shadow, immediately jumping out of it and starting to at least go for a bit more of a push. And I should have probably sprinted a little bit longer out of the saddle, to be honest with you, just like go up a couple of gears and really make this a bit faster. As you can see, I'm putting up 400 watts and previously even a bit more onto this. But I gotta say that once that I went actually out of the saddle, I also realized that my legs were already incredibly tired and I was in pain here. But I'm still trying to see if I can maybe get a small gap onto him. And yeah, unfortunately for me also, there was another, as you can see coming up, another corner that was a little bit tight, and there was also a few more cars this day, so I had to slow down here a little bit. But once that we're coming out of this, again, same thing, out of the saddle and still trying to see if I can maybe just get a little bit of a gap going here and just trying to sprint ahead there. And yeah, unfortunately, shortly after that, I think in a second or so, when I'm going back into the saddle, I actually heard him shifting behind me. And I was already thinking, it's like, damn it, he's still there. And he, of course, knew as well that once that we were on a bit of a descent, that I'm going to try and get that gap going against him. as I did in the past, but now I'm looking at 190, and now he sees the chance and actually starts moving past me. And this is really the moment when I'm trying to absolutely dig deep and say like, okay, let's try and stay on as much as you can, but I am hurting right now. My breath is going, my heart's pumping, my legs are just screaming at me, and he's already gaining a little bit of a gap. And this is where I made my biggest mistake. I'm actually looking at this and I'm just thinking like, fuck, he has me, and everything in me is just full of pain. And I didn't really think about him, because he told me later that at this point he was also near his limit. And I made the mistake that I talked about at the beginning of the video. I thought he had way more in the tank than he did. So I'm actually starting to fall behind a bit. I'm still at 300, but I think shortly after that I start to dip a little bit more in what I put onto the pedals here. And I'm just saying, okay, screw it, he got me. And at this point, I think a little bit later, actually, there's another effort that I'm trying to pull in. But I realized just a few seconds later, I think it was around this time or after the next bend, that he slowed down too. And I was just like, oh my god, no, he actually didn't have a whole lot more than that. So I'm trying to close the gap again and go for it. The problem that I had is I didn't realize that the end was actually just behind his corner. And I nearly got him towards the end, but yeah, he beat me fair and square here. And it was just that mental game, like he broke me there on that little effort that he put in. And even though afterwards he had to slow down, he got me. So yeah, another battle with Hector was well done by him. Was a really fun one. And yeah, the others were coming in shortly after us. But that was one of the climbs, and after that we just headed to the restaurant, grabbed some food, and then later on we just drove the next, I think it was 80 kilometers left down back to Valencia. I'm going to upload a couple more videos in the near future. I'm also going to try and upload a few routes for you guys, so if you at any point are actually riding in Valencia, thinking about making maybe a bit of a cycling vacation in Spain, I'm going to have something set up for you too. There's actually Jose and the others just coming in 1 second around that corner there, so I set the bike up so that I would have a little bit of a look at that to see when the next ones are coming in. But you can already tell, like, we gapped them pretty heavily at this point, so yeah, it took them quite a while to actually arrive there. But yeah, it was an awesome climb, an awesome day again. There's soon also going to be some footage of my mod that we rode. It's going to be a bit longer, but that was just the rematch, so to say, between Hector and me, and this one he took easily. That's Jose, so once that he sees the top, he goes for a little bit of a sprint. But yeah, that's it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'm going to upload more. If you have any comments, just leave them in the YouTube comment section. And of course, if you like the content, subscribe to the channel, everybody, and like the video. It would definitely help to promote the channel as well. I would really appreciate it. So thanks for watching today. I hope that everybody has a great week, and I promise that next time the upload will be a little bit faster, hopefully next week already. So yeah, enjoy and have a good one, everybody.